Please have a seat. Zak, you told me that when you moved to Finland, you lived in Kuopio.
Yes.
Is there anyone from Savo except Juho, of course, here? Yeah. Well, those who don't know, people from Savo, they are the twisted ones from Finland, and they do have a funny dialect. Have you considered introducing Savo?
Yes. I'm very happy that in Helsinki I felt that I was progressing. Yes, progressing in Finnish. So.
Okay, we'll give you a breather. There's quite a few questions for you, Thais. And I think that there was quite a few related to how do you kind of measure the success, and can you use AI to measure if your, design was a success or
Successful.
not?
Yeah. That's a very good one. We haven't looked into AI to help us in the design process as much. I personally use it in the chat format. We do have an internal setup. We call it Chatty, like our own internal chat GPT. And so in my day-to-day work as a design systems designer, I might use it as a way to find content that I need to know about a specific component, for example, or just ideas on how to document actually what we have. So I think it speeds up that type of process. But when it comes to measuring, in the end, it's a lot about analyzing data. And I think we might still be afraid of the hallucinations. Because, how then can we be sure that we can trust that it's analyzing the data correctly? It's very nuanced, right, when it comes to user testing the designs, which are very personal. It's a lot of the times it's a taste. I like where it goes, or I like this color. So how to bring AI into that, it's not something we did. But for the maps example, a feature that we want to look into then is having the AI help us come up with very pragmatical things that are common sense, like winter colors would be several tones of blue. Therefore, as a designer, I don't have to waste so much time now thinking of like 50 shades of blue. The AI can do that for me. So I think that it will be a first step before we even use it for measuring.
Yeah, and you have to think a lot about security, right, when you're talking about automotive. Sorry about my pronunciation.
Yeah, automotive, yeah.
But is there some legislation that you have to consider when you're doing this?
Interestingly enough, we are looking into having conversational AI for our application itself. And so the way I think TomTom is going in the future is more like you interacting with your car to be able to do the action in the screen that you wouldn't have to do it, so you can keep your hands on the hand driving. So that would be the case of, take me to a nice restaurant or show me where the nice cafes are around. And that would be like conversational. So I think in that case, if there are legislations specifically to like how much interaction or how much a driver could trust an AI to assist in navigation. If our team that is working on conversational AI is looking into that, unfortunately, I don't know much about. I would be also curious to know, actually. But those are the thoughts that I have for now. Like, I would probably have, definitely there's going to be something about, like, how much can we trust the car based or that is being built with AI?
Yeah, for sure, we're not there yet.
No.
And as Zak mentioned, there's like malicious models as well, so you have to be quite careful. Well, this was kind of related to the topic, but this got so many upvotes. So there are specific standards. Are there specific standards that car UIs have to legally fulfill?
Yeah, to legally fulfill, what I've been looking to is mostly the accessibility. We have a lot of guidelines. There are for web, so the WACG has all those specifications. You know, the elements in the screen should be accessible for keyboard navigation, and you need to have everything inserted in the code. And when it comes to the automotive, a lot of that goes out the window because, well, there's no keyboard interaction in a car, right? Everything is touch screen. So I think when it comes to What we have to be more concerned about is color contrast, size, and touch areas. So those guidelines are the ones that are more or less written in a document that we have to follow as such. And everything else is the design principles that I shared. Basically, the designers in TomTom have to be aware that the steps to take with that interaction need to really avoid the end user, being too distracted while driving. And we have a concept of, for example, there are some elements in the interface that shouldn't be interactable at all when the car is running. And therefore, if you try to pull up a keyboard to search, so you're there driving and you want to quickly search on the map, how do I get to the shopping mall? The keyboard won't pop up. You will get like an empty state saying, nope, you have to be stopped before you can search or type on the keyboard. So I think those guidelines are basically what we have to more or less adhere to.
Yeah, thanks. Back to you, Zak. People are really excited about this. I mean, they didn't know this kind of tool exists, and now everybody knows it's super easy to learn Finnish, move to Finland, go work for our sponsors, everything is now possible. But do you think that techniques used for developing Finnish Companion could be useful for learning other languages?
Yes, the short answer is yes. But my focus with the platform is only for Finnish because it's very difficult. And the goal is to make the language accessible, but yes, you can of course use it. And I've been thinking about actually open sourcing the platform so that it can be used by the community or anyone who's interested in developing for Spanish or for Italian or Japanese and so on.
I need it for Dutch. I live in the Netherlands and I still don't speak it. I've been there 10 years, and but I definitely did not dedicate that much time like you did.
Yeah, maybe you should also consider moving to Finland since you visit us every year. What is in Amsterdam anyways? Yeah. Okay. I don't know why this was so popular question, but Thais, I know this word sprint among the use terms. Do you use Scrum in the design team?
Yes, we do actually. I think because a lot of our designers are embedded in product design teams and they have the sprints. But actually when I added that to the word cloud, we kind of stole the word sprint for our own. We have a thing called design sprint, which is basically a sort of workshop setup that you go through the process of creating something new, but very quickly, like within 3 days, you identify the problem, you come up with ideas, and you make a prototype, and it goes really quickly. I think Google is the one, the company that sort of started the design sprint idea, and it's a process we often use as well.
Yeah, this is not in a questions, but this is my personal interest. When you talked about components. And I think for developers, when we create front-end developers, when we create a simple component, I think the most time I spend is to thinking about name for the component. Yep. And naming, it's painful.
It is.
Do you do that for your developers? Do you offer them this is really usable component naming?
That's a good one. I think coming up with a name is tricky, and it needs to follow a system. So it's easier when you set those things up in the design system level. And actually we're getting even to more challenging points of naming something with the design tokens, because now we need to come up with these elements that reference something, and we need to give their names. So as descriptive as possible is basically the guideline when coming up with a component name. And it does happen sometimes that if the designer didn't define the name, the developer will go ahead and think of one, and sometimes it just doesn't match. Sometimes, somebody calls it a tooltip, but somebody else calls it popover. And those things are tricky. So it's like, I guess it goes a lot with languages as well, right? In the end, you have several words that mean the same thing. And how does your system handle that? Because do you have words with same meaning? How is the translation going to work?
The naming the components?
No, I mean just in general with languages in Finnish, right? So you have a word in Finnish that means something.
Yes.
And your system needs to know oh, you mean this thing
Yeah.
and not that.
Well, it's a model. It's a translation model. So it's been actually it's based on an open source translation model, and then we kind of added more and fine tuning on it with more data that had been scraped. But then, if it's a dictionary, then it's very literal,
Right.
which means that if you say, for example, kuusi, then it will tell you that it's number 6. It will tell you that it's the moon. It will tell you that it's like a spruce. It will tell you that it's like all of those suggestions that come from a normal dictionary.
Right.
Yeah, it's
And
very
how do you
literal.
name your components?
The components, I actually name them by, that's a very good question, it's by parent underscore and then whatever follows. But it's very easy because the platform is based on Nuxt 3. So it has very nice component folder level organization, which I found very intuitive. But then now we're moving to another platform for other reasons, mostly authentication and security.
And that's probably going to influence the names again.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I think in the end, the tricky part is really making sure that whatever platforms either discipline is working on, they use all the same name. So if it's called tooltip in code, it should be called tooltip in my Figma asset. And that's a lot of the struggle happens sometimes with, just mismatch, and then you're not sure if you're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I have to say that I miss the times when there was still Sketch, and then the designers would deliver the design to Zeppelin or something like static one. So I could rely that this is decided. Now when I get a link to Figma, every time I go and see it while I'm developing, everything has changed, and I do it all over again.
Yeah, that's true. And that's where, unfortunately, the development process hasn't been completely adopted by design yet, which is the idea of branching and merging. Figma does have that feature, but no designer uses it because I think they just didn't really understand. But it's where I find that it's struggles like this would be avoided because, if you want to modify something that has been delivered already once, you need to branch it out and merge it back in and have a change log. And but no, designers like to just be like, you know what, no, I changed my mind. Let's do it again.
Yeah, I think we should switch roles on a day for a designer and developer and see our struggles because we do, have those both sides.
Yeah.
Zak, are you planning on using AI as a tutor that can automatically generate your learning plan and schedule or adjust training based on spaced repetition?
Yes, I've been thinking about this, and it's a very, very big question whether Finnish Companion is going to become a learning method, because I've been very cautious about not being and not falling into the gamification trap. And once you get into generating a curriculum, therefore you need to have the student to be motivated. So far, I'm being very prudent and conservative to keep Finnish Companion as an aid tool, as a support tool, so the student or the Finnish learner goes to it willingly and intentionally, and it's a support for the teacher as well, that the teacher can share links for the sisu drill session, and they go and practice those verbs. So, but for conversation and generating content, yes. It's already used for generating, for example, the sisu drill suggestions, but then we're now working on also generating short question answers, multiple choice questions and simple choice questions for UKI test preparation as well, so that students can actually do drills so that they can walk into the UKI test, which is the Finnish B2 level or C2 or A. I don't remember the levels, but B2 is the most wanted one. We use them for generating that.
There's also someone interested on. Oh no, it got lost. Sorry. That what other language resources used by Finnish Companion? Like, how does it know all the quirks of the Finnish language?
Yes, that's a very good question. It's actually open source data. So that's number one database that was used was Wikipedia. And to be very accurate, Wiki Dictionary. But then the thing is that it was very challenging was to actually extract the data from Wiki Dictionary and parse it. It was a long work. And then that was the English wiki dictionary, because there's also a Finnish wiki dictionary. And both have English to Finnish, Finnish to English. That was the English wiki dictionary. And then the Finnish wiki dictionary has also English to Finnish, Finnish to English. So there was a lot of work. But now it's kind of, a big database, which later was optimized and optimized and optimized into an actual serialized binary that's in Kappa and Proto, which is like super fast serialization and deserialization standard, which is really good. Yeah. So that's how we use it to get the dictionary data and words.
Nice. People are often super interested in really practical tips that they get out of these speeches. So are there specific tools or techniques that are useful for interaction design?
For interaction design, I guess Figma is really the main tool that, with a good library, like a design system in place, that you can quickly put ideas together and put it in the front of users. So in our case, because we're designing this UI for car navigation, we have also at TomTom tablets with a pre-installed version of our application that we can quickly iterate. Or if you don't have the application that you're working for in a working device, what Figma does is actually enables you to make prototypes that you can click around with. So interaction design is really about putting it in front of somebody and having them interact with. So the added challenge for us is that our end result is not in front of a computer screen, unfortunately, but for a lot of the people that work with websites, then really don't be afraid to just sketch something quickly together. And even if it's not interactable to much extent, at least you start getting an idea of where the person would want to click. If where you thought that the component position is adequate, that they would go for that. And other than that, there's a bunch of tools in terms of creating interactive prototypes. A lot of them are paid versions. And our interaction designers at TomTom would probably be able to tell you more about those. I'm really dedicated to the design system aspect. So for me, really Figma is the tool for interaction design.
Zak, have you used any designers with Finnish Companion, or how do you come up with that?
Yes, the graphic design, yes, but the actual component, it was myself as well. Of course, I had some additional people who would help me when there's volume with certain data or something. But when it came to components, it's usually myself who plays with the sometimes it's Vue, sometimes it's Svelte, sometimes it's just based on the mood, really. But it's just get things very quickly, build very quickly a component, try it and see how it fits. It's literally like building Legos and kind of sketching something and see if it makes sense or not. Does it meet this need or not? That's how, for example, I came up with this Buzz song with the lyrics. I was like, okay, well, actually it could be really useful. So every time I would be in the public transportation, I hear those Finnish songs and I can't really know the lyrics. I was like, okay, well, maybe I should do that. So it comes also based on inspiration as well. It's kind of like composing as well.
Yeah. Do you measure anyhow of those interactions, or?
I don't measure the interactions, but I do measure basic website statistics and which page and so on. So I keep a look at that, and I'm pretty happy with at least Sisu drills. And there's the other one, which is audio loops. I didn't actually show it. I realized that I forgot to put it in the slides. But audio loops also, where you can type any phrase you want, and it would literally repeat it for 10 times or 20 times or during 2 minutes. You actually get to pick that, and you put a playlist, you put your earphones, and you're walking, going to groceries, in the bus, and it's just repeating that and hammering that in your brain until you get it. Because trust me, you will need repetition with Finnish language. And also auditory. It doesn't have to be that you sit on a chair and study it or do it on your phone, consciously. It can be also passive. And that also, the brain learns also when we're focused on something else, but there's sound in the background. It's still picking up. So
During sleep as well?
no, not during sleep. No.
Ah, shame.
I think at least some point there was, well, back in the day, talk about like people are different learners. So some people need the audio and some people need the visual.
Yeah.
So do you have some kind of combination
Yes,
of that?
yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it's part of the design system. We have the Kuva drills, so it's the same thing where it shows 4 pictures, and that need actually came by doing some of the design thinking sessions in Kuopio with an agency with a very impactful local NGO that helps foreign immigrants and refugees settle very well in Finland. Turns out that I was focusing on the desktop version of Finnish Companion, and I just realized how completely I was far from what I should be doing, what's needed, because I spoke to this Finnish teacher and she told me 80% of my students are migrants who come, they don't speak English and they don't speak Finnish and they just speak another language. How am I going to even teach them? And it turns out that we were kind of like brainstorming, and there's this Kuva drills that pronounces and then shows 4 pictures, and then you have to pick one, and then it's literally learning by error. And there's also a spaced repetition algorithm behind that brings the pictures again that you're getting wrong more often, and so on. So there's that. The browser extension is more visual, for example. There's the auditory one. Sisu drills is very tactile. So I think so far those are kind of like the different ways of learning.
Yeah, and you said, you showed the setup of the testing, like there were so many screens and stuff. But is there other way that you collect feedback?
So with end users, mostly in the car, and some interviews. So sometimes we do have tests set up that is just on the computer screen, and we invite them into our offices and we give them a task to complete, and we see how they would go about imagining a car situation. We also have a couple of setups in the office that is an actual dashboard of a car, so we don't have to be inside a car to try it out things. So it's really cool, especially from with specific clients, because then we know exactly their dimensions, and so we get like a sample of their screen.
Does it honk?
That's a good question. I never tried that. And other ways of testing, well, the design system itself, I actually make available this Figma file I have to anybody in the design community that wants to experiment with it, because in the end, my end users as a design systems designers are designers from my team or from my clients' teams, because it's a white label. So for me, it's important to get their feedback also like on the usage of those elements, those components, if the color, the token structure makes sense. So I send out this file and reach out afterwards to find with a few questions.
Yeah, there's still at least this one question that is upvoted a lot, because I think this is a headache for all the developers. So do you have to think about legacy devices as a designer?
Yep.
I have understood that TomTom widely supports older devices.
Yeah, definitely. In the car industry, the challenge is the fact that those manufacturers are stuck with a lot of hardware for a long period of time, and whatever we sell needs to accommodate for that. So in a design perspective, we have to take that into account when we are coming up with new solutions or interactions that we want to propose for the product, because for some clients that might be interested in that solution, we will have to think backwards compatibility on that Android version, on that screen size. So definitely something that we have to look into. And one way we avoid having the issue that you were having with coming up to Figma file and everything changed is the fact that we provide specific final designs. And we don't call it final, it's called design specifications. And that's more or less set in stone. Once that has been handed over to our developers, whatever we work on is a separate thing. So we don't work in a branching methodology or in the similar way that Git does, but we do try to sort of make it a screenshot of what happened in that period of time because of backwards compatibility issues that we might have in the future.
Yeah. I know, Zak, the Finnish company is not really tied to any hardware, but do you have to think about these?
Or you just keep adding?
In terms of specifications, or in terms of
about like legacy devices or legacy maybe
actually yes, legacy devices, yes, because we have to be mobile compatible, and as I was talking about that teacher, for example, in Kuopio, users actually have old Android devices, for example, and it was actually I realized how horrible the platform was looking when I looked at it in an old Android. I really looked, not good. So I had to rework it and rework on some of the JavaScript manually and so on. So yes, look into that. Except that, I think we did use also. I've been trying to use now actually Object Pascal actually as a replacement for the Electron version of the Alfred clone, because the bundle of 500 megabytes just doesn't make any sense. And I did make a small prototype which works also. I think coding something in Object Pascal is quite interesting. But that's old language which works pretty well actually. So, and it's a safe language. I don't know if, I think it's been in the news quite a lot a couple of weeks ago that the White House had announced some of the list of the languages that are safe to use, and actually C and C++ were like a no-no. So it was a big push for Go, for Rust, for Java, Swift, Ada, C#, and actually Delphi and Object Pascal. And they were actually noted as safe by the White House. And there's a big push towards that.
It's incredible what medical doctors can do nowadays.
Yeah.
I always said that the doctors of the future are data managers.
Oh, really? Oh,
I've always thought that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Maybe the AI will save our health. Well,
especially when robots will be able to do like surgeries a lot in more detail than a human would ever be able to, right? The preciseness of laser.
Yeah. No, lasers are really good in terms of precision because they are predictable. Robots, I don't think I would trust a robot in surgery, honestly. And they cost a lot, actually. It's the cost thing. But yeah, LLMs in medicine, I don't think are, they can be useful in summarizing data. There's the whole issue of privacy and like the server's location and so on and where it's located, but they can be used for summarization and everything, but I don't think anyone would trust it definitively as a diagnostic tool. I actually was talking to the Google Med LLM team a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about how it could be used, and right now they are very clear and strict about the fact that it should not be used for diagnosis. So you can look it up, you can kind of use it as an aid tool, as a co-pilot, but you are not to use it as a final diagnosis from there and just pick it up.
Yeah.
It's just like autopilot.
Yeah, but it still kind of leaves the risk of error to the person using the tool, like someone using co-pilot, and I don't feel like checking this too much. I'm just gonna to the production.
Push the production. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much, Thijs and Zak. Let's have one more. Thanks for these amazing speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.